Oh, what's going on, GameLeap? Now today we're going to be watching a bit of low elo stuff and high elo stuff, and I'm going to be showing you why champions like LUCIAN, who don't really work that well in low elo, work in high elo, and why this champion and others of the same ilk are just way more effective in higher elo. Now it does come down to a bit of team comps, but there is so much stuff that low elo players don't do on these champions that they have to start doing. So if you play one of these high skill cappers who might not have the best of win rates in lower elos, you are going to love this video. And the low elo gameplay we're going to be watching is from a gold 2 player, and the high elo gameplay we're going to be watching is of Faker. So to know the big differences between lower elo and higher elo, strap yourselves in, this is going to be a red hot 10 minutes or so. Now if you guys want even more of these type of videos, then make sure to head on over to the GameLeap website and check it out. We have fresh daily original challenger tier content that is made by the best players and coaches around the world to help you climb out of elo hell and become the best player you can be. So get signed up, links down below, and without further ado, let's get into the inting. Now the first game we're going to be watching is of the low elo player LUCIAN. And let me just start by saying this, guys. When you run Ignite on LUCIAN, you have to run Ignite into matchups where you have kill pressure. Now this LUCIAN is against an Annie in the mid lane. Now yes, it might seem like running Ignite on LUCIAN is good because it synergizes with your early game aggression, but against range mages, guys, that kill pressure probably isn't going to exist for the most part. Even a better option would be to take cleanse. So here in these matchups, make sure you take teleport. This is going to keep you as relevant as possible on the map and also give you opportunities to influence the map elsewhere. So a minor little detail that one about summoner spells, but let's get into the gameplay. Now, one of the big problems that people have in lower elo, guys, when playing LUCIAN is getting ganked by the enemy jungler. Because you are very squishy and you're all about single target damage, you don't really have that 1v1 potential unless you're uber fed. So in the early game, wave management is so important. So I want to show you this situation here. Now, I want you to tell me, LUCIAN is hitting level 2 first. As you can see, he hits level 2 right here. Now, what should he do with this minion wave? How we manage minion waves, guys, is based on what the lane is going to look like in the near future. So if we know the wave is going to be played on the enemy side of the lane, we have to sort the wave out accordingly. We want the wave to be as close to our tower as possible, right? Because it's safer for us and less safe for the enemy champion. So what we should do here, based on the proximity of the next wave, as you can see it's now coming out of base, we have a bit of time here to actually hard push this minion wave so the next wave will bounce back to the middle of the lane. This is going to create space, because if we don't, if we just slow push, watch what's going to happen here. The next minion wave, this cannon wave, is going to get held up around the enemy tower. And even though this might eventually slow push back into us, the fact is we're playing this lane towards Annie's tower. And if we think about Annie for a second, who's actually missing some HP, so we have an advantage, and we do want to fight her early game, we can't really fight her if she's under her tower here. So it's so important, guys, and even in high relos like in Platinum and Diamond, people have no idea how to wave manage, so it's still really risky to play LUCIAN just because of this. This guy compared to Faker, of course, there's going to be a little bit of a difference here, but for the most part, he's actually played this lane pretty well so far in terms of pressure. Whenever Annie has walked up, he's looked to damage her, he's queued her through some minions as well, but Annie has been under her tower for 2-3 levels now, and LUCIAN's early game threat with Ignite has kind of gone to waste. This is what I'm saying, like in lower elos, you're better off just taking TP because it gives you a bit of compensation if you do mess up the wave, and you can win the lane just by being on the map for longer. So it is absolutely vital, guys, that when the minion wave is on the enemy side of the lane, you try to hard push this as much as you can so it bounces back the next wave to the middle. We don't want to play the lane close to Annie's tower here. Now, I just want to say sorry to Mr. Gold 2 because Faker actually ends up committing the same mistake here as well, in my opinion anyway. You can see how the lane, guys, is pushing towards Rise here, guys, and it's on his side of the lane. Now, I said to always hard push these minion waves, and to be honest, the Faker definitely should, because you know what's going to come as a result? A gank from Hecarim, that's right. But even if a gank doesn't come, just think of Rise here. Do you think he's happy with the lane being in this position? Of course he is, right? So this cannon wave that's coming to lane now could be coming back to the middle of the lane, and therefore Rise has to move out further, and because on LUCIAN most of the time you're going to have an advantage in terms of HP because you are aggressive and strong early game, this just puts Rise in a world of danger. He instead puts himself in a dangerous position and makes the lane a lot safer for Rise, and as you can see, he has to end up blowing his flash because of the Hecarim gank here. And by the way, guys, if you do survive a level 3 blue buff gank from the enemy jungler, give them a dab from the penguin, it's going to tilt them. Now LUCIAN actually does something pretty well here, guys. You can see how he's out of mana. So what he does is he shoves the minion wave, so he creates a bit of time to recall. Now this is actually really good from gold 2, and when he does get back to lane, Annie hasn't shoved this out, as you can see. So LUCIAN collects this wave in front of his tower, and it's in a great position for him here. And if we think about Annie for a second, she hasn't recalled yet. So in terms of items, LUCIAN has a massive advantage here. But you have to realize, guys, especially in lower elos here, that Annie is going to know she's in a bit of a deficit and a risky situation. So if LUCIAN does end up pushing this wave and decides to fight Annie, there is probably going to be someone else lurking in the wings here. So if you're ever in this situation and you see the wave in a great position like this, ping your jungler. even though the mid lane is for the most part a 1v1, you have to understand that if you jump onto a champion who knows they're weaker than you, they are probably staying there to bait you into their teammates. So you have to counter that and say to your own teammates, your jungle, your support, hey, there's someone else mid, I might be in a bit of trouble here, can you come help me out? So communication is another thing that's missing a lot from these lower elo players. Now, of course, it's the same for any champion, but on these early game aggressors where you are going to be fighting a lot, like LUCIAN, you have to understand a lot more macro and realize what is actually going to happen in the lane in the near future. So what LUCIAN should really do here, first of all, he should not hit any of these minions. All he should be doing is just last hitting, so this is a mistake. So when the wave is on your side of the lane, guys, and you have an advantage, whether it's items, HP, cooldowns, mana, all you're doing is just slow pushing. You're not doing anything else. You're not hard pushing. That's going to mean that Annie has to come out further for more minions instead of just pushing it into her. And you should also be pinging your jungler to come mid here. So ask for assistance at least like 3 times. Even ping the enemy champion in the mid lane, or even type to your jungler. We can kill. Annie is free. But this LUCIAN instead has other ideas, and even though he does trade the kill here, we never really want to be dying, guys, if we can avoid it. So you never know, if he pinged Hecarim a little bit earlier, Hecarim would have been there, same with Nautilus, and they actually killed the Volibear as well. So far in this Gold 2 game, wave management is lacking big time, but also communication and just a little bit of foresight. Understanding that what's going to happen in the next 30-60 seconds probably requires a little bit of help from your teammates, so ping them, communicate. Now, when we look at this next clip, guys, first of all, the lane is in such a bad position, I can't even be bothered talking about wave management at this point, because you guys should now know if the wave is on the enemy side of the lane, you are just hard pushing like crazy, right? You're using auto attacks abilities on the wave to get that shoved in, and this situation here is another result of LUCIAN just not pushing that minion wave out. But this is why it's so dangerous. In lower elo, as soon as that minion wave is pushed in, you are going to get ganked, because that's how enemy junglers work in lower elos. They see you pushed in, they don't care about the enemy jungler, they're just going to gank you. So if it's a 1v2, you don't have any support there, you have to position accordingly. Now, for some reason, Gold 2 LUCIAN here decides to run into the Volibear instead of just running north towards the top lane. So guys, I guess the tip here is that if you are playing LUCIAN or a champion with a gap closer, please do not dash into the enemy jungler, because you don't always have to run back to your tower, guys. You don't always have to run back to your jungler. If you're holding one side of the lane, you can maintain that space from the enemy jungler by just walking up. Instead, this LUCIAN decides to flash at the end as well, and he dies for no real reason, to be honest. So these kills, guys, in lower elo, most of the time they're going to be set up by what you do beforehand. So wave management and then your positioning as well. Like, it doesn't really matter how good your mechanics are. If you're in a 1v2, if you put yourself in a bad position, you're probably going to hit the deck a lot. But the big difference there, guys, between that gank, if we just think for a second, Mr. Gold 2 probably ease into the Hecarim there and towards him. You notice how Faker runs up away from the Hecarim and flashes over the wall? For some reason, Mr. Gold 2 just ran into the Hecarim and flashed for no apparent reason. So in terms of actually reacting to the gank, you never ever, guys, have to feel as if you have to run towards your team or your tower. All you have to think about is running away from the enemy jungler, and this is what enables Faker to survive. Now, the advantage of taking TP, guys, I'm going to show you right here. Now, Faker is honestly really lucky to live on this HP, but he would argue that it's calculated, and I guess it kind of is, because Ryze has no cooldowns left, and Volibear ends up picking the kill onto Ryze. But this is where TP really lets you off the hook if you ever do take a bad trade like that. He can simply TP back mid, and you can see in terms of the minions, he's actually got a massive advantage here over the Ryze, and he's also got a level on him. So in terms of teleport, guys, it's always going to be good on these early aggressive champions, because you're going to be on the map as long as possible. Rather than taking Ignite, it's like you have to get a kill with Ignite, otherwise it is GG. So TP is always going to be consistent, and it's always going to keep you in a game regardless of what happens. Now, this next clip, guys, really gets the blood boiling. Just watch this for me here. Now, why do you think I'm not happy with this? Look at LUCIAN's positioning, right, and think about the map, because that's how we really determine our positioning and what's going to be optimal here. What area of the map is in fog? Like, where can you not see? You can't see bot side of the map, right? So anyone could be in this bot side river here. The enemy support, the enemy AD carry, maybe even the enemy Volibear is here to gank you again from bot side of the map. And look at top lane as well. This LUCIAN has just warded top side of the map, so he got the Scuttle Crab, and he even warded the Pixel Brush. So in terms of where he should position in the mid lane, you should always position, guys, towards your vision if you don't know where the enemy champions are. Because if they are going to be top side of the map, your wards are going to spot them. And this is why LUCIAN gets caught out. And look where he's standing in the mid lane when he does actually get stunned by Annie. He's towards the bot side of the map where he has no vision. This is a cardinal sin. So it's kind of funny, right? You probably expect me to say something about like Faker's mechanics being nuts and this Gold 2 LUCIAN being trash. But honestly, his mechanics really aren't that bad. But in terms of actually understanding what's happening in the mid lane in terms of wave management and positioning, it's Pretty troll. Now, if we compare that clip, guys, to this clip from Faker, Faker is going to trade with Ryze here when he knows that the enemy champion, the enemy mid laner, is on their own. So he knows this is just a 1v1 between him and Ryze. But the Gold 2 Lucian would take any trade whatsoever, regardless of what was happening elsewhere on the map. So even if there is a threat of him getting ganked, he still takes that risky 1v1. If it's a risky 1v1, guys, because there are enemy champions in Fog of War, quite simple, do not take that trade. Even if you should have done, it's still a consistent way of playing because you're not dying. But when you do know there's no other enemy champion in the mid lane and you do have that 1v1 advantage, look to take trades. And as you can see, Faker actually dashes into the Ryze here and takes on a trade and ends up winning it, all because he knows exactly where the enemy champions are and he's not taking really any risks. Now, I know this happens a lot in lower elos, guys, and I want you to stop right now. The dragon dance, the infamous dragon dance. It's like the first two dragons that spawn on the map. It's like the be all and end all of League of Legends in every elo, I'd say, from maybe plat down. Let me tell you guys something. I do not want you ever going to dragon unless you have shoved your minion wave out in your lane. Whether you're bot lane, top lane, mid lane, I don't care where you are shoving your minion wave out first in that mid lane so you're not going to lose anything. You can see Lucian here, he's just waddling around the map like a lunatic, right? Like, what are you doing? So if he stayed mid, shove the minion wave out, there is going to be a cost for Volibear doing this. And what happens as a result, because Nautilus isn't here as well, he has to E and then flash out. So in the last 30 seconds, he's that infatuated with dragon for whatever reason. He wastes 30 seconds of his time, maybe 200, 300 gold in the mid lane because he's missing creeps. And the real icing on the cake, he has to blow his flash at the end of it. So this, guys, is why dragon most of the time, sometimes it is going to be good to fight there if you do have the numbers advantage. But if you don't, just stay in your lane, shove the wave out, and nothing can go wrong. It's always going to be a good decision. It is consistent League of Legends. And if we compare this dragon play to what Faker does in his game, guys, as you can see, his teammates are around dragon here, and there's actually pings going down that they're doing it. Now Faker, because he knows that Ryze is going to push his mid wave out, actually just stays mid while his teammates are doing dragon. Now in lower elo, as you saw Mr. Gold 2 do, they run to dragon at all costs, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what they miss in the mid lane or give up on the rest of the map, dragon is everything. Let me tell you something, it is not. So by staying mid and collecting that minion wave, yes, okay, a fight goes down and they might end up losing it, but Faker is scaling. He's playing consistent League of Legends in terms of its own game. So in terms of gold and XP, he's getting those minion waves mid, and eventually he ends up getting to this fight anyway and actually playing it really well, maintaining his space from the enemy champions, and they end up doing kind of okay. Now, of course, not every game on Lucian I'm going to show you, you're going to be 5-0. Even Faker in this game, you know, he's not really popping off that much, but he's playing consistent League of Legends, and if Mr. Gold 2 was to play kind of like this in his game, I guarantee you he would have had a massive lead on the ante. Instead, he plays very risky League of Legends where he dies like 3, 4, 5 times in the first 10 minutes. These are the big differences, guys, between the best players in the world and the rest. They play high percentage League of Legends, low risk. So hopefully this video gave you an insight on what the best players in the world do differently to everyone else. And if you want even more tips about how to play at the highest level and high elo VOD analyses, make sure to check out the GameLeap website for pretty much everything you will need Summoners Rift related. And until tomorrow's video, this has been the Jizz. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.